Howdy, y'all. Of course the wind's blowing. We wanted to paint today. Yeah. I brought some help. We have a whole rack here, and somehow I got this shelf at an auction for 20 bucks, and it's a nice rolling shelf, and Dad loves it because we can put parts on here that we've prepped for paint. Oh, there you are. What are you doing over here?
Well, we're going to take this transfer pump apart. So
Oh, okay.
clean it up, inspect it, and hopefully put it back together.
Yeah, and you guys have seen this. This one's a little different, but we're going to take it apart just the same. And this one has been in, somebody's gotten into it. These are cat bolts, but they're newer cat bolts. And they've put in a flat washer behind them. I'm not quite sure. We're going to take it apart, clean this up, maybe reseal it, and put it back together. Haven't we done this before?
Yeah. This, I think, is the second time.
I've said third time's a charm before, but I don't want to say that again. You might be asking why we're not using the lift pump we just rebuilt, and that's because it will not work with this fuel tower. So we're going to reuse the one over there off of the other 7J we got. This is the real McCoy, and we're going to have to take this part off because we do not have that. It didn't come with that machine. We're pulling this apart, and I'm glad we did. It's full of that red dirt. Like, I found a bunch of that in that fuel system. Way too much of it. We might take the whole pump off the real McCoy because those gears are showing a lot of wear and they're very pitted. I think we're going to take that other one apart and look inside.
Yeah.
This one doesn't look that good. Is it off? Yeah, there we go. There we go. And we got the Woodruff key out of there. This thing is going to be in terrible shape, I think. You know, those don't look that old. They look really
The packaging don't look
pretty
bad.
new. It got all that dirt in here. That's the problem. Yeah, I think it damaged things.
Didn't do it any good.
There it is. Yeah, it's got that dirt in it. It's ugly. Huh. That's very interesting. Ooh, this one might be a lot better, Dad. That gear has a lot of wear in it. In fact, you can see they're kind of bent. Hopefully the internals are better on this pump. For some reason, these bolts in this fuel pump off the real McCoy got mangled, especially the two on the top. And Dad's got most of them loose, but this one here is going to be a problem. Hey, you got it.
Yeah, I was lucky.
Yeah, took a little bit of work from a file. The internals look cleaner.
That one looks a lot better.
Oh, it's very nice in there. Nice
Yeah.
and clean. Even this, there's no corrosion. It's all like chrome.
And the gears look really nice.
Yeah, we're going to want to use that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well,
I think so.
at least we know what direction we're going. And this has the part on the bottom that we need. We just took this apart, and there's a check valve in the bottom of this lift pump right here, and there's a little nylon plunger and a spring. That spring goes in the right here. So when we put this back together, we'll make sure we get that. And no, 4G's lift pump did not have that. This is showing a 7 Bravo 2091.
Yeah.
Part number on the top. And then the one over here is a 7 Bravo 2091, but the part number's on the side of it. That is kind of interesting. We've got both of the lift pumps apart. And this is a one off of the real McCoy, the parts engine over there. And it is probably the best one of the three that we've taken apart internally. This one is the best, so this is the one we're going to use. I'll get this outside of this cleaned up, and the only thing we might change is the gear on the outside has some pretty good wear in it, so we might switch this with the one off of Hannah Montana. I took the filter housing apart on both those 7Js, and it was interesting to note that one had an aluminum piece at the top here, that kind of the holder for all the filters. One was this Bakelite plastic, and it's funny that the one with the aluminum top had plastic inserts that hold the filters, and the one with the plastic top had aluminum inserts that hold the filters. We just came off the press and loosely pressed this back together. This is the one we're not going to use, and I'm going to throw this one up on the bench, and I just put these washers in here to keep this collar down because it's under spring tension until we get the key in here and the gear started, but it'll hold now. I'll throw this on the shelf. Dad just finished making up gaskets again, and he's made these before. Well, not exactly, but we got the gaskets for this lift pump ready. Dad's up on the bench. He's filing off a little burr on this piece that goes on the bottom of the pump. But I'm going to put this together. Now, this one is different a little bit from the one on 4G. So we'll start here with a little bit of grease just on where the shaft rides. And I don't want to get it carried away with grease on this thing because this is fuel, and I don't want stuff that's going to plug up injectors. Put our gear on here, and we put the circle on the outside outward. Put a little grease on here, in the back of this gear. Put it through here. There we go. Got a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil in here. It's for fuel systems, right? Up next is this plate, and these are machined surfaces, so be very careful not to scratch or score or scar anything. And they are directional, so they can only go one way. And then the cover plate. And we will get a bolt started in here to hold everything together. Up next is our 5M6038. That is a packing seal. So that will go on there next. These are a little bit tough to get in there. May need a little bit of persuasion. On top of that goes this washer that's tapered. Make sure it's tapered to fit this. But this is a shoulder. Sometimes I've found that it takes a little bit of oomph to get it past there. I'm just going to use a deep socket to get it past that. There we go. And that'll seat in there just nicely. Up next is our spring, then another cup, like so. Then another 5M6038 seal. And that one slid right over it just fine. Kind of shaves a little of that stuff off of there. Next is going to be this final outer cup. But I'm going to put the gasket on here first. Now, there are two different kinds of gaskets for this. Our older 4G one was a one-piece just like this, and that's what we did on the 4G fuel tower fuel pump, is just one solid gasket, and that will work fine, but Caterpillar also had provisions on these newer ones for a two-piece gasket. And you would put this one in the middle and then this one on the outside, and then you wouldn't have to press everything apart every time you take it apart. But just for our ease of installation, and we've done this before, we're just going to make it out of this one-piece gasket here. So our gasket will go on, and in this case, and in some cases, you have to kind of give a little persuasion to get that packing in there. Just like so. Alright, that looks good. And yes, our press is a mess. First thing, I'm going to put a bolt through here and through our gasket. And I've got some washers and a nut here ready, and I'll show you why in just a second. We're going to put this spacer I have here on our press, and we're going to press this thing down. Now that we've got that pressed down, I'm going to put my washers over the side of this so that it goes over the edge of that cup. And I'm just going to hand tighten a nut down on that bolt. And then we'll release this, and it should hold everything down so that we can put the next part on. Okay, this part can be a little tricky. We've got this little bitty Woodruff key that's got to go in that slot. And here's the gear that we need to press in on the top. And you can tell from the witness mark right here that this was previously installed downward. And I've marked this side because we're going to flip it upside down, because you can see right here the gears have been wearing on this side of the gear, but not on the other side. So this will give it a fresh side of the gear to wear on. And this part can be difficult, and I suppose you could do this in a vise with a socket, but it's important to line up that Woodruff key, and that's part of the reason the black mark I made on there will help. You can see that. We're good and lined up. And then Dad and I have found that it helps to hold this with a pair of pliers while you're pressing it. It's on there. Let's go back to the workbench. Now I can release the bolt that we put in here to hold that. The gear will hold it from coming off now. And there will be some spring tension on it. Bolt out of here. There is going to be an O-ring, a 7B0305. It goes around this ferrule right here on top of the gasket, but we'll install that when we put this back on the fuel tower. Now we're getting to the part that's a little bit different than the one off of 4G. And there's a pipe thread hole right here. Any fuel that gets in between the packings will come out there. Next will go our gasket. And then this is spring loaded, so our spring will go in here. And there's a nylon check valve that goes in right here. And then all of this needs to be compressed. Then the long bolt goes in here. Now we have everything together. These are the studs that go all the way through. There's nuts that go on them right here. And the top two get studs as well. And we don't want to forget our O-ring that goes on the back when we put this on the fuel tower. These are cat bolts. They're the newer style, but I used the good cat bolts off the other pump. We're going to get everything painted, hopefully on the next one. So, at least we got caught up, and we're back where we wanted to be. This put us behind a few days, but I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Of course it's the wrong size. When we install this on the fuel tower. The fuel tower. There is going to be an O-ring, a 7B03. Up next is this part that goes on the bottom. Just like so right here. Wait a minute. Is that right? What's that hole do?